So we'll hit 3 right there, or you can right click and create an OR. And it's the same way, Control X, Control V, and just create it like that. That's all I'm going to do. There you go. So let's say there is, let's say one of these 3 things happens and one happens at the same time. So there is no precursor to these 3 happening. 1.1 happens, and then either 1.2, 1.3, or 1.4 happens. How you do that is you insert an AND at the OR. That sounds confusing. You can either right click and do an AND in there like that, or you can just hit this AND shortcut, select OR and hit AND up here. It has to have at least 2 branches. So we'll hit 2 of those. Now, keeping this whole thing highlighted right here like this, we're going to hit Control X and take all of this whole entire thing right here. Once it's highlighted, that's the key to it, is not to select the box, but to select the OR right here. So hit Control X, that takes it away. Let's put it in the AND right there like that. And hit Control X and put this on the upper branch right here. And then you can customize it and move this little piece right in the middle just to make it look pretty. So what we're showing here is function 1.1 happens, and either 1.2, 1.3, or 1.4 happens, and then you move on. So let's say you do pre-mission, mission, post-mission, and this is monitor health function, for example. That's how that would work. So that's an example of that. So the next thing I'm going to show you is the iteration loop. And in order to properly show you how to do the iteration loop, I'm going to go ahead and rename these elements. So instead of saying $function1, I'm just going to rename it to something else. I'm going to rename it to, I'm going to be pretty specific with this, just so you can. So these 2 functions right here are the ones I'm dealing with. So what I have to do is, let's start everything back over again. So we've got calculate latitude and longitude, and then display that position on a map. But we want that to iterate. We want it to happen all the time. So what we're doing is we're running a basic, like a Garmin or something like that. And the Garmin calculates the latitude and longitude and then displays the position on the map. And it refreshes, and it does the same thing over and over again. And the requirement will say what the refresh rate is. So what you do for that is you right click and do insert, and then you're going to do a iterate right here. So the way that you create the iteration loop is either right click up here and do insert iterate right there, just like I told you, or click on the shortcut right here. Now when you click on it, it's going to ask you for a domain set, and what this means is you're telling it what the refresh rate is, or how many times you need it to iterate, and we're going to say endless right here, because we're dealing with a GPS system. So there's our endless iteration, and just like the other things, we're going to go right here, hit Control X and Control V to put these in here. So we've got an iteration going on, calculate latitude and longitude, display that position on a map, iterate, endless iteration, and then move on to these things. So we're going to do this, insert an AND in there. We're going to have 3 branches on it. We're going to take this iteration, we're going to put it in the mid on the top right there. We're going to put this daughter function right here. We're going to put this daughter function right here. So it runs the GPS, and it runs that function, and it runs that function, and then it moves on. So that's how that works right there. So I'm going to move everything right on back. Now let me show you how to use the loop. The best way to show you how to use the loop, I'm going to change some of these again. We can renumber it later. Let's put that before that by hitting Control X and Control V. So I'm going to show you how to use the loop function. What we've got here is a sequence of basically software modules. So the software is going to accept X, and then while X is between 0 and 10, it's going to print X and then add 1 to X. And if I'll show you how it's done, but if it's not between 0 and 10, it's going to print an error and move on. So how you do that is click on the first one, right click and do insert a loop like that, or just go up here to LP, hit loop, So there's our loop over here. Let me move it. Control X and I'll move it to the front. Let me get rid of the elements pane to make it bigger. So accept X, and hit Control X, Control V, Control X, Control V, Control X. And then I'm going to hit loop exit. Then I'll hit loop exit, and the loop exit is print error right here. Okay? So this is going to loop continuously until you reach 10, at which point it'll print an error and move on to the next function. That's how you use the loop feature in Core. So that's the basic rundown for how to use that. Actually, there is one more thing. I need to show you how to replicate something. So I'll go ahead and change these parameters one more time. Let me get rid of the loop function. So here we have a sequence of manufacturing activities that need to happen continuously. So how you do that is you either do insert, replicate, or you go over here to RP and hit that as well. And you choose your domain. We're going to use the same one I had in there before for your domain set. So you can select all, hit Control X to select all of them. Control V to insert them all in there. And this replicates over and over again. So these are out of order. Let's say you've got a machine that detects the location of component A, and then it moves component A to module A, such as a machine that drills. The machine that drills orients component A for drilling, it prepares it for drilling, and then it drills the hole into it, and then it moves it onto the conveyor belt, and it repeats the loop over and over again. Endless iteration. Okay? So let's say your system also, you want to have your system monitor for errors. So let's create a new function and say monitor for errors right here. So we're going to have to create an AND right here with 2 branches, right? So let's create an AND with 2 branches. Hit Control X. If I have this whole thing highlighted, Control X. Click on that, Control V, and then this one right here, Control X, Control V, like that. So basically we have an iteration right here. So the system is monitoring for errors and it's repeatedly running this loop right here. I wouldn't call it a loop, it's running this repeating sequence. The example that they give you with Core, they're doing an elevator. So the elevator goes between all the different floors and everything continuously, up and down to all the different kinds of floors. So that's pretty much it as far as how to organize the functional flow block diagram. So now I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all that stuff and go back to the way it was before. So now we have things right back to where they were before. Just to make things interesting, I'm going to go ahead and put an AND right here. And then I'm going to do an OR on top of that. It's 2 branches. So some of your diagrams are going to look a lot like this. So now let's go ahead and I'm going to show you how to create inputs and outputs for these. So the way we do inputs and outputs is we have to insert new element types in here. And those element types are right here called items. Now these are your inputs and outputs for your functions. They're items. Okay? And the best way to do that is not through this. I think the best way to do it is through the n-squared diagram. So I'm going to go ahead and do it through the n-squared diagram. I'm going to click my parent function. I'm going to go to the n-squared diagram, which is right here. And that shows everything inside. So we're going to click on daughter function 1. We're going to right click, edit inputs, okay? There's no inputs and items, so we'll double click on items and we'll do